afternoon and welcome to this webinar, which is jointly sponsored by the MMA and Division of Local Services. My name is Sean Cronin and I manage DLS. I want to thank MMA very much for giving us this opportunity to help appointed and elected municipal officials discover, navigate, and use the tools available via the DLS Municipal Finance Training and Resource Center, our website, and our YouTube channel. At DLS, we play both a regulatory role and provide training and technical assistance. Back in 2017-18, faced with the significant challenge posed by the changeover in the local finance workforce, DLS stepped back and developed a new vision for carrying out our training mission. This is the result, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. Our panelists today, each of whom will introduce themselves, will highlight the wide array of interactive and on-demand materials created to help new local officials and seasoned municipal finance professionals. They'll also discuss how to leverage the wealth of publicly available municipal finance data to better identify financial trends and craft more informed financial policies in your communities. As you will see, this is not the standard slide deck presentation. Rather, it's intended to be a more casual walkthrough of the tools and resources available on our website. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so you can go, and post questions during, but we'll take them at the end. If you take advantage of this, if you're wondering things like, how would I find statewide information on X, or how would I calculate Y, feel free to ask away and we'll show you how to utilize the tools to do that. One last thing before I turn it over to Kirsten Shire-Taylor, who's going to kick it off at DLS. If you're interested in any education or school finance data, make sure to visit DESE's website, because that's that type of information we don't have, but they have tons of information and data on their website. And also, and this will be repeated, I think, at least by Dan, feel free to post links to our website from your website, as we have lots of information that you can use to help answer questions from your residents. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten, who's going to give you a general overview of the recently revamped DLS website.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, MMA members, for your interest today. It was great to see a large number of you at the show last weekend. And if you didn't happen to hear our information then, hopefully you'll pick up some of the things we talked about today. So I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour through some of the major resources we have on our website. Because whether you're a new official or a seasoned veteran, you don't have a lot of time to spend hunting for things. And so hopefully, if I can show you a few things today, you'll have a better idea where to go for to get the many resources we have available to help you. So I'm going to start right here on our homepage. And one thing that you may not know is these drop-down lists can give you actually quite a bit of good information. So if you're looking for information from a particular bureau, I want to find a service is a great way to go directly to one of those bureaus. About will give you a link to our staff directory, and you can actually also get that from our Contact Us. And what the staff directory will give you, particularly if you're a local official that transacts business with us on a regular basis, or if you are an assessor or in an accounting or treasury position where you might have a community advisor assigned to you. The staff directory can give you not only the information about who's in what office, give you an email address, telephone number. We also give you links that can go directly to the information that you might need. So, and also if you are assigned to a community advisor, we do present the lists here. So you can find out exactly who is assigned to your community, and then you can look up their email and telephone number on the staff. One of the things that we have on our pages to help make navigation a little easier is if it's a really long page that involves a lot of scrolling, you'll probably see a table of contents and a top icon. And so if you want to jump from place to place, on the page. The table of contents is a really easy way to do that, or if you want to just go back up to the top, you can use that control. So also we have events, and here's the one event that we have listed. We feature all of our webinars, all of our presentations right at the top of the web page. We just have the one right now. We also have an events calendar. So if you scroll down into our kind of About Us section, you'll see the events calendar. And what this is we typically get information from some of the associations and also some other state agencies like the Inspector General. And so if we get notified of any of those events, we do put them on our municipal calendar. And if any of you are on the boards of a municipal association and you would like to get your events posted on this calendar, by all means contact really anybody on this call or me personally, and we'd be happy to advertise your events. So before I leave here, we realize that sometimes it's not that easy to find things in the DLS site because we have just so much material. And there are two different ways you can search. And on our main page, you'll see two of them here. And so the difference between Search This Organization and searchmass.gov is a pretty big difference. So if you're looking for something in our content, you definitely want to use the Search This Organization because it will search only in the content published by the Division of Local Services. If you use searchmass.gov, it's going to search every organization under the mass.gov umbrella. And if you can do it that way, and if you put DLS in the search, that sometimes helps, but just realize that there actually are two agencies with DLS as an acronym. Also, the Division of Labor Standards comes up in a search. So if you're looking for something that's specific to local services, you really want to use the Search This Organization option. So looking at our most requested content, we have 5 icons which can rotate around. They may not be the same all the time because most requested can change depending on what time of year it is. But I'm going to start by pointing at the icon that's probably always going to be our largest icon because it's probably our greatest resource, and that is our Training and Resource Center. And whether you're a new official or a seasoned veteran, you can find something here that's going to help you in your position. So if you are a new official, we have a page just for you where we've corralled some of our information that will help get you started quickly. And in a little bit, Dan is going to talk more about resources for new officials. Our Foundations in Municipal Finance course, Dan will also speak about that. That's something fairly new, and even if you've been around a while, I'd really encourage you to take a look at that. It's got really good information about the municipal finance year and can also be helpful even if you've been in your position a while, and it's a really good refresher. So we recently redid our training center to try to make it organizationally easier to navigate. So we've corralled all of our thousands of resources in 3 different ways. So if you're looking for information on just a really broad topic, I try our resources by topic listing, where you can find information on topics that are more kind of generalized. So debt and borrowing, for example, you can get all of the information, all of the guidance, some of our presentations, a lot of videos, some of the tools, all of this relating to a really pretty broad topic. If you're in a position that is accountant, auditor, assessor, collector, or treasurer. We have a page specifically for you where we've gathered all of the resources that can be helpful in a particular role. So the responsibilities for that role, any of the regulations, legal guidance, information on the business processes that are typically filled by the role. We've kind of gathered them all on the role pages. And if you're in a position where we don't actually have a specific page for you, but you've got some suggestions for what we could put there, definitely contact us, because we really would like to fill out and add positions to this grouping. And we're definitely looking for suggestions from you. Resources by process is a list of all of our training materials organized by a specific business process. So if you're looking for information specific to issuing property tax bills, you're going to find all of that in this grouping. And again, it can be PDFs, it can be legal guidance, it can be videos, it can be presentations. It's a really good source if you're looking for information about something, particularly if it's a business process you haven't been involved with before. So if it's something new for you, this is a really good way to learn about the process. We also have links from the training center to our YouTube channel. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, definitely do that. And please do subscribe so that when we add new things, you'll be notified every time we add new content. And there are a couple of ways to look for information. We have just a ton of videos here. If you're looking for the things that we've recently done, you can get the most recently uploaded list, or by popular. Obviously, the property tax videos and Proposition 2.5 are very popular. You can also use our playlists to look at all of our video presentations and webinars grouped by a certain business process or a certain topic. Publications will bring you to our publications page where you can get back copies of our city and town newsletters. Also, links to other publications that are specific to either a bureau or a business process. And finally, tools and calculators. I think Zach is also going to talk about this, so I won't go into huge detail here, but we have an awful lot of tools, templates, calculators, reports, data analysis tools that you can use for different purposes. So a couple of them that you might find particularly useful are this impact on Proposition 2.5 report. That's a calculator where you can determine if you have an adjustment amount based on a Proposition 2.5 referendum vote that you might be thinking about. It will give you the impact using your current year tax bills. So that can be really useful. We have another one that will give you the same kind of analysis if you're considering a residential exemption. And with a lot of these online calculators, you have the ability to export the information to Excel. So you can do what if analysis, spread it to Excel, and then distribute it around and keep coming back to the tool and doing more analysis. So we also have a lot of legal guidance. And if you're looking for municipal finance law information, our bulletins, IGRs, and local finance opinions, you can get that from our website. Right now, they're organized by the type of legal product that it is, the IGRs, the bulletins, local finance opinions. And then they're also organized by year. And we realize that it's really difficult to find things this way. And so we are planning to release probably within the next month a new version of this where you can search by keyword or filter by a certain topic. So I think that's really going to be helpful. And you're going to love it when it comes out. Until then, you can actually search our law library by using the search law library. And actually all of our guidance lives in the Gateway system. So you end up here at a search screen in Gateway, and you can use a keyword search and find guidance by keywords. And once we get our new enhancement released, like I said, probably within a month, you'll be able to do that right on the site instead of going to Gateway. So Lisa is going to talk a little bit about cherry sheets in a little while, but if you're looking for information on cherry sheet estimates, local aid, and other state payments, you can get to that right from our main website, our main webpage. And I will let Lisa talk about that, but as the budget process unfolds over the next month or so, you can come here. You will get a DLS alert whenever anything is released, but this is where you can find your actual cherry sheet estimates. And we do provide information historically. So if you're looking for information about a year before the current year, you can find that here. And so finally, we have data analytics, and that's a big focus of my bureau. And we have two ways you can find analytics. And our top tasks are kind of our large scale, really comprehensive looks at everything having to do with municipal finance. If you're looking for anything on a really specific topic, probably the boxes below under the what you need to know are where you would find us. And this is another area of the website that we're currently working on reorganizing so that it is easier to find things. But I really want to highlight our municipal finance visualizations page, which has all of our brand new and most fun ways of looking at the data for your community. If anyone stopped by the MMA booth, you probably saw us demo an early version of our municipal financial self-assessment tool, and I'm happy to tell you that it is now live on our website. And what this does is give you a look at different indicators that can give you an idea of the overall fiscal health of your community. And we've separated them into various categories, starting with community details, which is kind of a high level look at a few things. And then we have different tabs where you can take a little bit of a deeper dive or look at different kinds of metrics, all of which will give you an idea of how your community is doing overall. For each of the different metrics, we've tried to explain why at DLS we feel like it's important and what this metric can tell you in terms of overall financial health. You can also drill down to any particular year. You can see the actual data that's involved. You can pick any community. Most of the metrics default to 10 years of data, as long as we have 10 years, but you can narrow it down if you only want to see 5 years of data, you can certainly do that. You can also export the information. This is done in Tableau, and you can download it into various forms. PDFs, PowerPoints. It is public data. You are welcome to it. And we hope that you will play around with this and give us some feedback, because like I said, it's brand new. We're really excited about it. We definitely plan to enhance it. And if you've got ideas for things that might be new indicators that we could add, definitely talk to us about that. We'd love to hear your feedback. Another really good visualization is the finance trend dashboard, which also takes a look at financial data, but kind of in a different way. And this has been around a while, but I think many people may have missed the fact that it's out there, but it's another great way to take a look at the financial indicators for your community. We also provide multiple years of data. All of the data can be exported. If you want to see information for all 351 towns, we have a 351 report option for each of the independent metrics. New this year, we had a community property tax rate, which everybody should hopefully be at 100% now. But that was kind of fun to see how far you had progressed. Single family tax bill is another really cool one. We will be updating this for 23 shortly, but it's a good way to just quickly visually see the impact of a single family tax bill. And like all of our information, it can be downloaded. We also have a couple of new Power BI visualizations from the Bureau of Local Assessment. The local assessment dashboard has a ton of information specific to property assessments, and the assessment history also can be really helpful. The snapshot dashboard gives you a lot of information in a really quick way. So if you're looking for just information about a specific data point for your community or any community, this can be a good way to do that. And also you can dump the data out for all 351 using the 351 report. We try and add that to most of our things. And the workforce snapshot gives you a look at employment statistics and labor statistics. So that is most of our data. And like I said, if you're looking for things on a specific topic, we also have a lot of data analytics on various topics, which it would take probably a week for me to go through all those, but page through there, we promise to reorganize them so that they're easier to find very soon. That's a real priority for us right now. So I will now turn it over. And if you have any questions, post them in the Q&A. We'll be happy to answer all of those at the end. Thanks. I will turn it over to Dan now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Bertrand. I'm going to talk to you today about taking all that information, all that we just inundated you with, and figuring out exactly kind of where to start. We have a number of resources that we have specifically for new officials, folks just entering public service, and I am going to kind of distill down some areas where you might want to begin. We know that kind of our information can be overwhelming. So what we're going to do is, I think as we do this, we'll also be giving you some links. I know there's been some questions about where do I actually get the links for this. So I highly encourage you to go ahead and bookmark some of these things as we talk about them, because I think that'll be helpful. So to begin with, we're going to see city and town website, which is also the DLS alert system. The DLS alert system goes out to 9,000 subscribers, and that's the best way for us to keep you informed about a number of items, IGRs, bulletins, cherry sheets, other important news. And we also want to share with you that by attending this, you actually will be receiving a subscription to DLS alerts. We do try to manage how many publications and alerts we send out on a regular basis, because we do know that you get a lot of emails over the course of the day. So this is the city and town component of it. City and town is our e-newsletter that goes out twice a month and has a whole host of information. So you'll be subscribed to that. We also encourage you to consider letting other colleagues know about this publication as well, because it is a very valuable resource. We touched on, moving on, we touched on the DLS YouTube page. Go ahead and subscribe to it right now. There's a number of videos that are available and relevant to a number of positions. So I'm going to just kind of share one right now.
Long-term debt issuances typically have maturities greater than 1 year. Once the debt is issued, the municipality makes principal and interest payments to the bondholder based on a fixed schedule.
So that's about municipal debt. Kirsten mentioned this as well. We have videos. We have a number of these. We also have playlists, so you can see a whole suite of Prop 2.5 that should be very helpful. We also have a new officials playlist. One of these things that we want to stress to you is we have a number of resources that you should feel free to use in your role working in a city or town to provide to your constituents in your city or town. So if you're an assessor's office and you want to give some information about an abatement, we have a short video about that provides it in plain language. Free cash, capital planning, forecasting, all these things that might be relevant across the board. We want to make sure that you understand you can feel free to use our stuff however you see fit and however helps you. Another thing to bookmark is this page, which was touched on earlier, which is resources for new officials. This is kind of the go-to page that we want folks to familiarize themselves with and come back to over the course of a year. To that end, we have also developed our Municipal Finance and Training Center, which again, go ahead and bookmark that right now. I'm checking, I think that some of these should be appearing in the chat. Yep, awesome. So these are appearing as we're talking about them. So come back to these because again, we're always updating these and we're making sure they're available both by topic, by position, and by process, which as we all know, over the course of the year, different things happen at a different pace. So to that end, another thing we really want to focus on is our foundations in municipal finance for the new official. This is a comprehensive 5-part training, covers key concepts important to new officials or those who seek a better understanding of municipal finance. It outlines things like the budget process in both practical and policy terms, highlights best practices for sound financial management, and explains how each local official's role contributes to the overall financial health of a community. It contains 4 distinct narrative voices representing past, current, and future fiscal years. In many ways, it's the Christmas carol of municipal financial management. And we give important context and seasonality to the subject matter. The training contains a curated list of over 250 videos, guides, templates, data, reference tools, including the municipal glossary, which is one of the main components, something we find municipal officials really can find helpful to demystify terms of art that you might encounter. We recommend starting in the introduction and then going through it, but it also has a summer, a fall, and a winter. So you can go through these things as you're participating in these in real time. So want to make sure that you take a moment and look at that. Moving on, we have the Viz tools. These have been touched on, and I'm not going to go over into detail these because I think Kirsten mentioned them, and then we're going to get into them a little bit more. But again, bookmark these right now so that you can come back to them and look around at them on your own schedule. Sean is going to get into the many ways you can synthesize these tools and this data to help you in your roles. Now we're going to move on to some specific positions. So Let's say you're a new policymaker, a new counselor, or on the select board, or a FinCom member. How do you begin? Where do you start? And that begins with, again, starting with the foundations component, watching, I think it's about 5 hours at your own pace, including self-assessments of these tools, and making sure you have a general understanding of the municipal finance landscape. Then you can move on. We have, again, these glossary, these tools, roles and responsibilities. There's a number of items here that you should familiarize yourself with. Understanding the budget process in a city, if you're in a city, understanding the budget process in a town, if you're in a town. For example, if you're, like I mentioned, if you're on the FinCom, one thing that we have is a video on the FinCom. So you can take a few moments.
We'll review the roles and responsibilities of a town's finance committee and how the committee works with other elected and appointed positions within the Appropriations, Warrant, or Advisory Committee. Second, the number of members, which should be an odd number. Third, whether committee members are appointed or elected. In towns where members are appointed, this authority usually falls to the select board, moderator, or some
So what we
other
want to do
combination
is
thereof.
demystify these processes and these roles so that everyone is on the same page. And again, these are ongoing useful templates that you should use at any time. In addition to that, we have policy in your roles as a policymaker, reviewing things like reserve policies, decision making around the impacts of Prop 2.5 referendum. Zach's going to get into that. Kirsten mentioned that as well. So how do you implement your policies, and what are the effects of the policies that you're looking to pursue? Next, we're going to move on to new town managers, administrators, mayors, serving in kind of the day-to-day operations and implementing these policies. So we'll highlight things like forecasting, capital planning, and all these other particular things specific to those roles. We want you to not be overwhelmed by these things. We want you to access them as you see fit so that they can be helpful to you. And that's why we've curated them in this fashion. One place to start might be who makes up the financial team. And then, once you know who's on the financial team, which is the management team, are you aware of, first of all, some general best practices? And then secondary to that, are you adhering to those best practices? We have a lot of that listed here. And we'll get into this in greater detail. How do you assess your fiscal well-being? These are some main topics that you can see: debt service, pension liability, reserves. All of these things we'll get into later, but to at least understand, when you click on these, you're going to get an introduction to either a video, PDF, and these are all tools that are available to you. And then this was mentioned earlier, breaking things down by role. So if you're a new assessor page, and in that page it talks about Gateway. You need to get into Gateway so that you can course 101. Course 101 is obviously integral to your role, and something that's oversees the training provided by the divisional that to be completed within 2 years of election or appointment, after which you receive a certificate of successful completion. So we've got our tips for taking course 101. We've got a handbook, which also serves as a really helpful informational resource. Speaking of helpful informational resources, motor vehicle excise is something that obviously everyone's familiar with in one way or another. This is something that is a great introductory tool. It's all in kind of one-stop shopping. And we find that this can be a great tool that you can share with taxpayers. If they have questions about this, here's a video from DOR or DLS, or however you want to refer to us. Here's what they say about it. There's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel when you can take something from us and then pass it along to an interested taxpayer who might have questions. That goes to a variety of topics, like I mentioned, abatements, exemptions, things like that. Anything where you're interacting with a taxpayer and you need general information, this is stuff that we want you to use. So the other thing, and I think this is going to come to chat now that Kirsten alluded to, is knowing who your BLA field advisor is. We have that available too, so reach out to them. They're there as a resource for you. And then really quickly, want to move on to treasurers. Again, you have the role of the treasurer. So what is the role of the treasurer? Things that you want to be familiar with as far as components of cash management, reconciliation, learning about these concepts, and then, having an understanding of those and then being able to review them as needed. So the importance of the cash book, reconciliation, the UMIS manual, these are all things that we want you to be familiar with. And then again, coming back to reaching out to your BOA and knowing who that is to serve as a resource for you. Moving on to the accountant auditor, same thing. Here's what these roles are. Here's what the expectations are. And here's some priority subject matter that we want you to be familiar with. Now, again, this can go from something as important as defining what free cash is. You would learn that in the Foundations of Municipal Finance, has an entire section dedicated to free cash, but also something more specific like the free cash upload and certification process.
Thanks for joining us. As we get started here and wait for
of their motor vehicle, and they've done
And
it by
that's a
individual
specific
years.
walkthrough that's going to be hopefully helpful. And we have any number of those available to you that we hope you're accessing. And then one more time, if you do have questions, knowing who your BOA field rep is and using and leveraging them as a resource. So I hope that was a good guide to how we're going, how we have these resources available to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Zach, who's going to get into a little more detail. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. As Dan mentioned, my name is Zach Blake. I am the Chief of the Financial Management Resource Bureau here at the Division of Local Services. If you're not familiar with us, my team provides free municipal finance consulting services to cities and towns across the Commonwealth. And so we're always happy to engage with you and try and provide sound advice and best practices to help you be more efficient and effective in your role. Through the assistance we provide cities and towns and the vast amount of data that the division collects, we've developed a handful of tools and a number of other data-related resources that enable local officials to benchmark and analyze different financial scenarios. This is really sort of an introduction to the tools that are available for you, sort of data geeks like me out there. And I know that you've had a sort of a fire hose worth of information directed at you so far, but I want to take a quick walk through and demonstrate some of the functionality of our different calculators, tools, and templates available to you, and what kind of information that you can gather from those. So just bear with me for 1 minute while I pull up my screen. So Kirsten and Dan walked through some of this, but just real quickly. So when you're on our homepage, you're going to want to navigate down to the Municipal Finance Training and Resources Center. By clicking on that, that takes you to the Training and Resource Center. You're going to navigate down to our Tools and Calculators page. And we've recently revamped this to order it a little easier for you to navigate, breaking this up into the different tools, calculators, and templates that are available. And Kirsten and Dan touched on some of these, but just to sort of give you a little bit of a flavor of the power of these tools, I wanted to open the debt service calculator. This is an Excel workbook that allows you to play around with some debt numbers. So let's say you wanted to borrow $1 million. And so you plug in your $1 million. I think interest rates right now, let's say we're floating around 4.3%. You want to borrow this over 10 years. And for grins, you're looking at whether this is level debt service or level principal. You simply mark those boxes, and lo and behold, it gives you a quick analysis of what that projected payment will look like, both on a level debt service, as you can see here in this column, and then as a level principal. And so I think this is a real quick and dirty tool that allows you to get some sense of what that impact might be if you're looking to borrow money. And these can all be bookmarked, obviously, as well. The other tool I wanted to show was, and Kirsten and Dan both pointed to this, but the impact of a Proposition 2.5 referendum on a property tax bill. So let me pull that up. So this report captures specific parcel, assessed value, and levy data from each community to estimate the impact on the average single-family tax bill, as well as various assessed residential and commercial properties if a Prop 2.5 referendum were approved. So very simple, you find your community, you enter an amount. So just to show you how this functions, I'm going to type in, we'll go to my hometown of Sudbury. Let's say we wanted to have $1 million override. Hit the calculate button, and then it gives you a whole host of information. So you have, the parcel information, assessed value information, tax levy information, what our different rates look like, split rate community. But this is where the real power of this tool comes in, where you can see, all right, what is the average single family assessed value currently? What would that current tax bill today look like? And then most importantly, what would that impact be of a Prop 2.5 debt exclusion, for example, or an override on the average single family tax bill? But not only that, you can then drill down into this handy table down here and see what that impact would look like across a range of values, as you see in this column. And so it's really a powerful tool for policymakers in particular to sort of, give you a gauge as to what kind of an impact that you might see if you're looking to propose an override. And I would certainly encourage you to work with your assessors, if you're going to be exploring that. The other tools that I wanted to highlight for you are the financial forecasting template here and the financial forecasting template instructions. I'm not going to click on this template and specifically just because it's blank, but what I'm going to do is pull up one that we've completed just to demonstrate sort of the power of what this tool has to offer. Now, we tie all of this, when we produce this for communities, when they've requested it of us, we tie this back to the data that you submit to us through the recap. And as you can see here, this is producing a 5-year forecast for this particular community. The power of this is it drills down into each of the revenue sources. It has not only a long history, but projection of what those look like based on fixed assumptions that we build into the template itself. So it's going across the different primary revenue sources in cities and towns across the Commonwealth. It then jumps into the different expenditures. And so those are highlighted here. If you've got enterprise funds, community preservation, debt, but the real power of this tool, and it's not populated here, is sort of the modeling that it lets you to do. And you can plug in, for example, what your capital plan, potential one-time purchases look like, and when you're going to be purchasing those items. And this builds into the forecast to show what that impact would look like. The other one is, and this actually takes a good deal of time to build into it, sort of once you build it in, provides just a real nice set of detail for you for a forecast as this position control. Once you've entered information for all of your personnel, this allows you to then model different scenarios, particularly around collective bargaining. So we've built in this COLA calculator, and you can play with different sort of scenarios to see what those impacts would look like across different years of your forecast to really understand whether or not you can afford, say, a 2 or 2.5, maybe 3% increase when you're negotiating with your unions. And so that's really the power of this tool, and we're available to assist with this. Obviously, this has a lot of working formulas behind the scenes, but we would be happy to discuss with you how to implement this at the local level. The next, what I want to do is navigate away from here. So we get us back to our home page. And then we navigate to the data analytics and visualization section. And then, as Kirsten mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of data that we collect from cities and towns, as well as other resources. And what we do in the Financial Management Resource Bureau is we love to pull this information in when we're doing, say, one of our financial management reviews or policy analysis to really get a sense of sort of the financial well-being that's going on in communities. But a lot of this information is distilled in this community comparison report, which you'll find here. And this is an easily accessible report. Click on it here. And it does take a moment to load, but you can sort this any number of different ways, select your individual community, and then it just houses all of those sort of different data sources that we collect across the division. So a nice one-stop shop for local officials. And one of the things that we make use of this for is when we want to do some benchmarking. And so what I've done is, here's one that we did fairly recently for a community where I pulled down all of that 351 data from cities and towns across the Commonwealth. And you can see population, operating budget, per capita EQV, per capita income, different property valuations. We've got population density, land area, revenue sources, local and regional school districts. We even plug in form of governments in here. And then this becomes a really powerful benchmarking tool. And it allows you to, through successive sorting, you can narrow the field of potential peers to a set of communities that sort of consistently found within close proximity to your community's statistics, particular variables. And so those variables, I've outlined here. And the resulting table allows you to compare your community against other communities on a number of different statistics that can be swapped in and out depending on what you're trying to analyze. So for example, if I'm looking at, what's the general financial health of my community compared to another community, you might look at a different set of metrics than, say, if you're trying to understand comparable spending around, say, public safety or public works or general government. And so what I've done is I've narrowed this down to the data for Hampshire County, as you can see here. And so I can compare my particular town, whether you're Amherst, Goshen, Hadley, and see where do my data points compare across a range of different metrics. But then even drilling down further, I can start, and this is where that successive sorting becomes very valuable, whether it's the size of your budget or the population. You can generate a peer group and really get an understanding of, well, how does my community compare across a range of data points? Whether it's the assessed values or simply something like, what do our bond ratings look like in comparison to one another? And then from there, you can easily develop some tools through Excel that you can then showcase to, say, your policymakers or your select board members, finance committee members, or maybe this helps you do some analysis around collective bargaining, for example. And so it just becomes a really powerful tool where you can mine our data that we're collecting from you folks that you can then showcase to your policymakers as needed. So that's, a quick tour of sort of the tools and resources that we have on the calculators and templates. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end about that. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
Thanks, Zach. So I'm going to share my screen here. So good afternoon. I know most of the people on this call know me, but I want to welcome all the attendees, and I'm glad that you're able to join us. I'm going to give you a brief overview of cherry sheets. And I say brief because if we really wanted to talk in depth about cherry sheets, it's probably about 45 minutes at least. People have alluded to where to find it, so I'm going to go right to that section. You'll see right here, it says cherry sheets, and you can click on that and it'll bring up your ability to go into our website and look at the cherry sheet estimates as we post them. There's been a lot of conversation about getting alerts and knowing about when things change. So the important thing is, I think everyone didn't say this, but I know Dan's going to get you all, is in order to get the alert, you need to sign up for the alert. So please make sure that you're signing up for those DLS alerts, because we send out a lot of important information, especially the cherry sheets, which are near and dear to me. So what is a cherry sheet? It's simply stated, it is the Commissioner of Revenue's official estimates to be used in the upcoming fiscal year by communities as they're setting their budget or preparing their budget. And the age-old question as to why is it a cherry sheet? Why is it called that? Believe it or not, back in the 1960s, the cherry sheet was actually printed out on a cherry-colored paper. It was just the old big magenta cherry color, and the name stuck. Even though today they're actually just web sheets, and we don't send them out manually anymore. And we put these up on our website as the budget changes. So normally, in a normal year that we don't have a new administration starting, we would have had cherry sheets up there today. Typically an hour or two after the governor releases their budget estimates. This year, because Governor Haley is new, we will issue them anytime between now and the beginning of March, because she's entitled to an additional 5 weeks before they get released. Now, all of this is great, but let's just go right into what the cherry sheet looks like. So when the governor finally signs the budget after it's gone through the extensive legislative process, this is what we will send out a DLS alert, and we will tell you that these are available to you. In addition, we'll take these numbers and we will post them right into your your tax rate recapitulation sheet, so that as long as your tax rate hasn't been approved by the time the budget was signed, you will have the most recent cherry sheet estimates preloaded into your recap for you to work with as you're setting your recap during the summertime, typically. And this is very important because this is the final number, but throughout the year, as the legislative process is unfolding, we have this button here on the final so that you can go back and see it. But this is what we issue as the budget process is happening. So you know at any given point in time, when a budget changes, you'll know what the amounts are that are appearing in the budget and how it affects your community. Because there could be changes that are in either the way that the allocation is determined. Popular in that sense is the charter tuition reimbursement. There might be a proposed change to the way that the formula reimburses the community for this cost. Obviously, Chapter 70 and the Student Opportunity Act funding, the unrestricted general government aid, there could be a proposal for a higher amount, which would be shown here. And you can see that in the 23 proposal that we had one number, and then at the final cherry sheet, it came out to be a higher number for unrestricted general government aid. All of this is part of the process that happens as the governor, the House and the Senate make up their budget proposals, and we try to keep you as informed as possible. Again, the thing that's important is that you get those alerts and you know to look for these. We could issue up to 8 alerts on the cherry sheet depending on changes that happen. And we want to make sure that you're seeing the information as it's finalized. And we try to do it as quick as possible, but as accurate as possible. Trying to stay within my 5 minutes here, sorry. There's lots of information that's included on the cherry sheet. The cherry sheet could be, there's a program on the cherry sheet that funds for transportation for a certain district, but it's not the pupil transportation, and we frequently get asked about that. This is mostly for regional school districts. There's library aid, there's racing tax information, and all of these are governed by some sort of legislative action that happened in the past. So there's a statute that dictates how you get public library aid. There's maintenance of effort. There's you have to make sure that you're maintaining it. You need to make sure that your library is doing the right thing with it. We have veterans benefits, which is can be very confusing to people. The veterans benefits, if your veterans agent is submitting everything near the end of the year, it will impact the amount that's on your cherry sheet. So it's important that you stay on top of those things. And as everyone else has said, I'm always happy to answer any questions that you have, whether here or reaching out to me afterwards. With that, I will turn it over to Sean Cronin.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm just going to take 2 minutes and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. I know there's a good number of questions in there. Just want to share my screen. I know what I'm about to show has already been highlighted, but I just kind of reacting to some of the questions. I want to show you how I would utilize some of this stuff, particularly the visualization material. So you've seen how to get here, our main page, mass.gov/DLS. You click on data analytics and visualizations. What I wanted to do was just show how these can work. So I know Kirsten mentioned this, all but a handful would be at 100%. I'm going to choose one that isn't. And while I'm doing so, explain why we did this. We know each city and town is a little bit different in the way they're structured. And I've heard from some mayors and managers that they're not quite certain where they're at in the process. Well, this is a simple tool to show you where you're at in the process. So if you're in the town of Royalston, you can see that they're 60% way through all the forms that they need to do. So they haven't held their classification hearing yet or submitted their recap. So if you're wondering where your community's at in the tax rate setting process, you can come to this page and get a very quick snapshot as to where you're at. We've already talked about that one. So I think the last thing I'll say is the difference between the dashboard and the new self-assessment. So I use this dashboard multiple times a week. So if I want to come in here and look at a community or get statewide data, we'll just, we'll choose Abington since it's first. We'll actually, let's do one that has free cash. I'll choose my hometown here. So you can see, multiple years worth of information. You can see, well, this is great. Their free cash is growing, both in dollar terms as a percent of budget. Their enterprise fund retained earnings has jumped and stayed there. Stabilization fund has increased. So I look at this in 10 seconds. I say, okay, at least from a reserve perspective, they're doing all right. If I want more data, I click on here for 351. Another window opens up and I can pull down more years of information by clicking this, and I can get all 351, or if I just want 1 or 2 towns, I can do that. This one enables me to look at my community, other communities, aggregate statewide data. So, back in my town hall days, if I was asked to pull together a presentation of how some metrics for our other communities, I would use that community comparison tool that Zach talked about. This dashboard is a really powerful tool. It's got tons of information available. If you're interested in new growth or your levy limit, all that type of stuff, it's all available here. So definitely take advantage of that. But how is that different than our new self-assessment tool? Well, the dashboard that I was just in, that's more pulling down lots of data, slicing and dicing it, doing some big picture analysis. This is really intended to be a quick snapshot of a community with 5 tabs of information. So it shows Springfield here. So you get a decade's worth of budget information, population, enrollment for schools, income per capita, EQVs, income sources. Of course, now it's not going to work, right? I've been having problems all day today. So if this doesn't go out, lots of data, you can aggregate it. Here is like a really quick snapshot of what's going on in your community. I'm a big believer that a picture tells 1,000 stories. So, okay, it's back. So you can click into income sources, which is basically your revenue stream. You can get a picture of what the composition of your revenue is, how state aid performed, what's going on with your levy, local receipts, both as part of a budget and actuals versus budget. So if I'm a budget person, I can come right here and I can get a decade's worth of page 3 local receipts, budget versus actual. It's all available right there. And I know somebody had asked about source of data. The dashboard has an eye logo. You can run your mouse over that and it tells you. Again, what's going on with my assessed values? One quick snapshot. How are we doing collecting taxes? Where are we in terms of our levy ceiling and excess capacity? How's our new growth been over time? I can just click through these and probably in 45 seconds get a pretty decent sense as to what's going on in my community, including ratings down here. So this community is Amesbury has gone from a single A to a triple A over a decade, which is fantastic. And then reserve. So if you're trying to get a sense as to whether you're a FinCom member, a select board member, a city council, mayor, manager, whoever you are, what's been going on in my community over time, you can come right here and get a quick snapshot. If you want to do a much deeper dive, I would suggest using the dashboard. And if you're a data junkie, you can pull down all that stuff and go from there. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I know there's a bunch of questions, so we can start running through those.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Lavender Bird. I am the Senior Legislative Analyst here at the MMA. I'm thrilled that you could all join us today. And at this point, I'm going to ask all of our panelists to come back on screen, and they will be taking turns depending on what the question is on answering those for us. But I know that we're all just impressed by how much data is available at our fingertips on the DLS website. So I'm going to jump right in because we have about 10 minutes. We have a lot of questions. The first one is there a calculator that shows the effect on residents' costs when a community shifts the levy? I know there is one for a single tax rate. So I believe that's around the Prop 2.5 calculator.
Well, there is a report that shows the impact of having a split tax rate, which is, I believe, what the question is. And I actually opened up the spreadsheet because I saw the question. So we'll put the link in there, but you go to that tools and calculators page, you look for the classification item, you click it, a spreadsheet opens up. And then I'm looking at it right now. All you got to do is type in one number, what you want the shift ratio to be, and it tells you the impact on everything.
Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you. And then kind of on that same topic, is there an easy way to explain the algorithm for a split tax rate?
The algorithm? Well, I'll be somewhat wise and say just use the calculator. You don't need to know the algorithm. It's, it's there. You type in a number, if you really want to know the math behind it, I would suggest either check with your local assessor or going to the assessor's page. We would have either material or video that explains how classification is done. I know the class 101 that assessors have to take There's a chapter or a section in there on classification. So go to the assessor page and you'll be.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, jumping forward here, are there resources that are tailored on the DLS site that are directly towards helping residents better understand town finances? So I think we talked a lot today about things that can help specific members of an administration at the local level. But are there any that are sort of for public facing that would be helpful to share with the community?
Dan, you wanna take that?
Sure. I would say, it depends on the topic, and it depends on, how deep of a dive people want to go down. Municipal finance is its own world, as everyone I think here knows. When you want to demystify things like property taxes, why is my bill not violating Prop 2.5 because it's more than 2.5%? That hypothetical question. I think you begin with our page on property taxes. And then it's I think getting people from A to B. If I'm getting asked a question about property taxes, I want to make sure that they understand what the municipality's role is in property taxes and assessment. So I think it's meeting people where they are. I will continually promote the Foundations in Municipal Finance and the YouTube page. I think that's people can consume information how they see fit. A lot of people are used to small sound bites of videos. We have things chunked up by topic. So we have things that you can go down and watch for an hour. We have things that are 2 minutes long about the levy limit. That's how, so once I think you familiarize yourself with all of our data and all of our informational resources, those are two different things. So begin with the informational resources, the glossary of terms, and then if you want to provide data to people, go to the data bank and access those things. So again, we have a wealth of information. We have a property tax page. We have a motor vehicle excise page. All of that is parsed out by topic, and it's presented in plain language. I would say it might look like a lot now, but when you take a step back and take a deep breath and just kind of look at it by subject, it's a lot more digestible.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Okay, next question is for their FY24 budget, they need Medicare and unemployment estimates. Where would they find that information?
Well, I would suggest their own local financial system. They report at the end of each fiscal year to us through the Schedule A, but we kind of aggregate that data. I would strongly suggest that individual check with their finance director or accountant auditor, and maybe even their provider of the coverage, because it's not something that we would have readily available.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so this question is on the data itself. So for the municipal financial data for the various communities, is the data always comparable? For example, is it always the same date, or do the dates of the fiscal years vary? So are they comparing apples to apples, I guess, on fiscal years is the question.
Ron, do you have any answer that?
Yes.
The data that's presented in each of the file or reports that are out there is always going to be comparable on fiscal year, provided the communities have submitted for that year. So for example, Sean showed Royalston's tax rate not at the end state. So they would not have data, but the whole list would be all that current year's data.
Excellent. Great. Okay, we're making great progress. We've got about 5 minutes left. You went over the debt service calculator. Is it possible to export the debt service calculator information to Excel?
So it's an Excel workbook. So absolutely, you can do that. You can take that information and play with it in any number of ways.
Great. Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Does DLS assist towns with creating/using the financial forecasting tool?
Short answer is yes. We would need a request from the select board or mayor from a city And that gets you in the queue, and then we would be more than happy to work with you to pull together that financial forecast, because we know that that is can be a heavy lift.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. Okay. And on the debt service piece, is there a way to see the age, how much time there's left of the debt source in the debt service calculation? I don't know if I said
I
that.
believe the short answer is no, but that's something the community should be able to get very easily from their financial advisor.
Okay,
But
great.
we don't have it issue by issue community bank.
Great. Where on the DLS website can town clerks find information on completing their portion of the recap?
It's out.
I don't believe that there's a page,
I would say that we don't have anything specific. Yeah,
but I will, sorry, Sean.
no, go
I
ahead,
was just
because my
gonna say-
internet's thinking.
Yeah, I would put a plug in though that on February 5th at Devon's, the Clerks Association Education Committee is hosting a training session where myself, the Director of Accounts, Deborah Wagner, and the Public Finance person, Bill Aragle, will all be attending. And I know that that's one of the topics that Deborah's going to discuss at the school. So they should sign up for that school.
And I will also add that we are actively planning for another addition to the YouTube channel, a how to do the recap from A to Z. That's something that we are actively putting together right now. I can't tell you when it's going to be done, but we know with the changeover in the workforce that we need a nice, easy to digest tool for folks who are responsible for putting the recap together.
Excellent. And some of these questions came in a little bit earlier in the presentation, so I'm sure they've been answered, but I just want to make sure that we highlight them again. So one of the questions is there a way to compare different cities and towns' financials, see where our town stacks to others? I know you covered that, but if someone just wants to give a quick reminder of where the best place to find that information is, would be great.
Sure. So I covered that as part of my presentation. If you want to simply navigate to the community comparison, which is under the, I don't want to share my screen and interrupt this, but it's under the data visualization and analytics section from our homepage. You simply click there and you'll navigate to the community comparison report, which has
the link to that is in the chat.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you. And along those same lines, where can we find a flow chart showing money coming in, into and out of a town or city? So I think
I would say go to that new self-assessment page, go to the revenue piece that we showed, and it's all broken out there. In terms of expenditures, if that was asked, go to the trend dashboard, and there's a section that shows expenditures, and that's pulled from Schedule A's. So assuming your Schedule A is accurate, that information will be accurate. And I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, not every community accounts for things the same across the board in the Schedule A. So use that information on the expenditure side a little bit, a little bit cautiously.
excellent. Great. Why don't we do one last question? So this one is regarding the Chapter 90 roadwork formula calculation. The person states employment stats are used in that as part of that calculation. Where would I find that? Is that something that would include businesses and employers in the town? And is that information available on the DLS website?
I believe the short answer is no. You can go to MassDOT site and that have that, but we don't compile all that information that goes into Chapter 90.
Great, excellent. And let's see, I think maybe we have time for one more. Okay, if you could just mention again the link where you have the municipal finance legal information. And again, I would just remind people that they can search on that search feature on the DLS website too.
Yeah, somebody want to just throw that in there?
Excellent. Okay. We are out of time. We still have some great questions that we didn't get to, but I know that you're all so accessible at DLS and available and responsive. So I encourage people to reach out if I didn't get to their question today. I want to thank everyone for attending this afternoon. I hope you found it as valuable as I did. It was absolutely eye-opening how much information is compiled on the DLS website. And I think municipal officials are going to find it hugely helpful to leverage that information for their community's needs. I want to say thank you to Sean, Kirsten, Lisa, Dan, and Zach for being with us today and highlighting all this great information. I also want to thank Lily from the MMA for her, as always, excellent hosting us on these webinars. And thank you all very much. This will be posted on our website as a recording, so you can certainly refer back to it. And we'll send that link out to all of our attendees from today. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.